Hello, and welcome to a podcast called Life Lessons Learned. I'm Ryan Brennan, and I'll be your host. Tonight we have a special treat. Matthew Treater has agreed to do an interview with me. Matthew is actually a good friend of mine. He's a student here at BYU, Idaho. He's a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's good to have you on, Matthew.
Good to be here.
He actually helped me come up with the podcast idea, Life Lessons Learned. I really wanted to help people tell their stories and the lessons that they learned. I feel it's really important. So tell me a little bit about yourself, Matthew. Where are you from?
I'm from Wisconsin.
So what's it like to live in Wisconsin?
I'd say it's cold, but it's cold here too. Very similar weather. Very small percentage of members of the church. So I was probably the only person of my faith in the entire school for a little while, or close.
Wow. So tell me, what are you studying here at BYU, Idaho?
Studying communication, and my emphasis is in video production.
Why are you studying communications with an emphasis in video production?
So it's an interesting story. I was a psychology major for a little while, but I just had a bad vibe about it. I didn't feel good about it.
Yeah.
And as I looked more into it, I realized that probably I'd be dealing with a lot of abusive people, and that I may not do so well with that. And as I pondered about it, prayed about it, worked hard to figure it out, I just had this lot of experiences that led me to the conviction that I needed to go into video and that I needed to work for the church someday. And that was something that was really exciting to me and that I felt really very good about, and I felt like I had gotten my answer to my prayers.
So I think it's really interesting that you're studying communications with an emphasis in video production here at BYU, Idaho. I think that's great. And you want to work for the church. I also think that's great. Now, you served a mission for the LDS Church. Where did you serve?
I served in Provo, Utah, actually.
Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, that was really different because Utah, of course, has a lot of LDS people in it. It's about 60% members of the church. And especially where I was serving in Provo and Orem area, around the Utah Valley, it was very, very high percentage, like 99%. So most people were members of the church, and the way that we found people that were not members of the church was through referrals. So people in that area would find someone or know someone as a friend that was not baptized in the church and that was curious about it, and they would refer them to us. We would go talk to them about it, and it was actually very successful. It was a very high baptizing mission.
Yeah.
A lot of what we did, it was kind of fun. We would teach these families, or some of the parents were members, or the parents were members but the children were not members, these part-member families, and we would teach like 9 to 11-year-old kids that had grown up kind of going to church, never got baptized. And it was so much fun because they're kids, and it was so fun teaching them because we would have special techniques we would use, like we'd have hand signals to teach the 10 Commandments or different things like that. And
oh, yeah.
It was just so much fun.
You know, when I served my mission, I had a great time, and teaching kids was a lot of fun. Tell me, Matthew, what is the most valuable lesson that you learned from serving a mission?
Most valuable lesson? Well, for me personally, I feel like the lesson that was most important to me is a little unique.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of missionaries, when they go out on their missions, maybe they don't have a real strong conviction about their feelings about the church or about God, and they're not really necessarily very committed, converted in their hearts. But I was very, very staunch about the church, and maybe even a little bit too much. I was very, what would you say? I was very passionate about the church, and I really wanted to be obedient and to do as much as I could for other people. And it was really a challenge for me because a lot of the missionaries that I interacted with, that I had in companionships that we were assigned to, just had really different views and feelings about things, or they didn't have that same level of passion and commitment that I did. And so it was difficult for me sometimes to get along, or to, like, I felt like they were kind of slowing me down, or that they were a little difficult to deal with. I would try to encourage them to keep the rules, and they didn't want to hear it. And
yeah,
I realized that I was kind of being harsh. I was so intent on keeping all the rules that they laid for the missionaries. There was a lot of mission rules. There was a whole book on it. Well, it was a little book. It was only like 80 pages or something. But
the White Handbook, as I understand it.
Yes, the White Handbook, or sometimes nicknamed the White Bible. Yeah, that I had pretty much memorized it accidentally from overly reviewing it, and it started troubling me. Like, I just felt like it was so hard to get along, and I felt like maybe I was being too hard on other people, but I felt like it was like I felt responsible to call them out when they were disobeying the rules. But it happens all the time.
Yeah,
it happened all the time. Usually little things, and the rules are sometimes kind of strict. Like, you always be really close to your companion. You have to, where you can still hear them or see them.
Sight and sound.
Sight and sound rule. That was something a lot of missionaries were not too excited about. But it's to keep each other safe. And but I was very literal about everything, and it started getting to the point where my companions and I just couldn't have the kind of unity that really is required for a companionship to be successful. Because when people that you're teaching notice that you're not getting along and that you have really different perspective on things, it just kind of interferes with the whole teaching process. You lose their trust. Causes confusion. You have to find a way to be unified.
Yeah.
In fact, funny enough, that was one of the rules, that try to be unified with your companion. And I started thinking, I think it's more important for me to try to get along, or try to work with my missionary companions, than it is to follow all the rules. And so many people were just, when we were being trained as missionaries, it was very intense encouragement to keep all the rules, and they called it exact obedience. And at that time, I was all staunch about it. But looking back, I don't really think that was for me. I think that was for a lot of the other missionaries that just were not too keen on following rules. But I don't have a rebellious bone in my body. It's just not my personality.
Yeah, well,
it's just who I am. I don't know. It's just how I'm built, I guess. I don't know. But I really started to feel like my priorities were out of whack. Like, the main priority is, of course, helping people to come unto Christ, helping people to pray and to feel the love of God in their lives, to change, become better, overcome their sins, their bad habits, addictions, whatever it is they're struggling with, family challenges, just to love them and just help them to be closer to God and closer to what the gospel's all about, which really is love. And I felt like I wasn't really living that. I wasn't really being as charitable and loving as I should be. And it really bothered me. and I would bug other missionaries about it. I'd be like, well, help me understand, what am I doing wrong? And they kept pointing me to what's termed often as the spirit of the law.
The spirit of the law.
Yeah, which when I was growing up, I always heard that and thought, oh, well, that's just an excuse to break the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It's kind of silly, but the spirit of the law is really about just knowing when there's exceptions to rules, kind of getting the higher purpose of what all the rules are about. And to me, I mean, I was so technical. Everything to me was so, like, I was very rigid. I'd have.
So give us an example of a good example of what it's the spirit of the law. Give us a rule that maybe could be broken, but it would be okay to break the rule.
Well, that's a difficult thing to answer because it's all about the context of the situation.
Yeah.
I mean, a really obvious example, I knew about some of the real obvious stuff before. I mean, I could see glimpses of what the spirit of the law was about. Obviously, you've got a rule like sight and sound, or like you've got a rule about let's see here. Like, one of the rules was that you couldn't be with just one member of the opposite sex with you and your companion. It had to be multiple members of the opposite sex. I don't remember the exact number, but because if there's only one, that basically trouble could happen. So for that rule, one of the things I thought of was, well, what if she's got, like, what if there's an emergency, or I don't know, if you're eating dinner together and she starts choking or something. I mean, obviously you get up and you try to help her out, or you call 911 or whatever, and
right.
You do whatever you have to help her. All the rules are kind of out of the window at that point, I mean, it's all about doing what's best for the other person. And that's really what I started to realize. It's like, this isn't about the rules. This is about helping other people. Because what Christ said, he said that all the law hangs on love the Lord thy God and love thy neighbor.
The two great commandments.
The two great commandments. And so I was thinking a lot about that. I was thinking, well, it's not about keeping the rules. It's about love. And what I came to that was so spectacular to me that I never quite understood before is that if something doesn't, if you're not loving someone else, you're not really being obedient. You're not following the spirit of the rules, you could say. And what I realized is that the spirit of the law is about the purpose of the rules. Because as soon as you break the purpose of the rules, it's void. It doesn't really matter. It's like, if there's no reason to keep it, why are you doing it? If it's just an empty rule. If the rule is meant to keep you safe, and you're completely safe, and there's no chance of anything bad happening, then you don't need to worry about the rule, Yeah. Or if the rule is meant to help other people, but in the present context it's not helpful, then don't do it. So it's all about the purpose. You understand the purpose, and then you know what to do. In every situation, as long as you understand the purpose of the rule, and really understand it, you know that you do, then you don't have to worry about the rule anymore. All you have to worry about is how to apply that purpose of the rule to love other people better and to do good. Yeah, so that was a monumental discovery for me. And it saved my mission. It saved my relationships with my companions. It dramatically changed my approach to life. Instead of being just so wound up in all of the rules and the regulations and just worrying and having anxiety, I didn't need to worry. I didn't feel a need to worry about it anymore. To me, it was very simple. Everything was very straightforward and simple, and I didn't feel guilty anymore if I did something that was if I broke a rule, like it was, or a small rule at least, because I realized it really isn't that important. It's just not. The important thing is love.
Well, we appreciate your time, and we appreciate your spirit that you bring to the show. Now, it's my understanding that you also have a vlog.
Yes.
That you do. Life Artists Daily, something of that
nature? Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Recently started a vlog on YouTube. The inspiration for this vlog was that I realized that I have a certain gift for finding insights into things.
Sure.
And I get an insight into things just about every day that I think is pretty meaningful, really, that could really help somebody, probably. And I was surprised to find that out, but I was like, hey, I really think this is true. I think I get a new epiphany every day, at least a little one. And that's what I said on my Life Artist Daily vlog. I said it's a new epiphany for every day.
Okay.
So the plan was every day it wouldn't have to be elaborate. I would just record myself sharing a little insight from that day. Just something I learned, and that's it. And it's only like a minute or two, maximum like maybe 2.5 minutes. And I just share my insight, and I add some B-roll, I give it some nice music or whatever, and I post it. And it's just a lot of fun, and I've gotten some good feedback.
Well, that's wonderful. Once again, we thank you for being willing to do an interview on the show. Hope that we can have you back at another time. It's been great. Let us always remember that there are exceptions to the rules. It just depends on the context of the situation. And let us also remember that love is the most important thing. You've been listening to a podcast called Life Lessons Learned, and I was your host, Ryan Brennan. Thanks for listening, and I hope you have a great day.